There's a major change in the construction industry, many fearing it could collapse. We might have just received a major catalyst which changes everything, with one of Australia's biggest builder, ProBuild, whose revenues exceeded $1.4 billion a year, going into voluntary liquidation. And if you thought that was bad, just wait. In Queensland, over half of the building sector is insolvent, with some firms losing up to $40,000 on each job. This extends far and wide in Australia, with Victoria experiencing 360 building companies going insolvent in 2021. And it sets the building industry up for potential collapse, with everything rising from crude oil, iron ore, lumber, nickel, and even the cost of labor all skyrocketing. So let's break it down. This is where I talk about exactly what's going on, why it's happening, what might come of it, and how you can use this information to better navigate your way through this turbulent times. Because I have to say, it's one of the hardest times to build a home I've ever seen in my 11 years in the finance industry, and understanding a few key points will go a long way. And before we start, if you find this information useful, remember to hit that subscribe button. It's free and it really helps out the channel. So what's going on at the moment? I'm sure you've seen this on the news. Builder after builder going broke. And there's many stories out there. And meet Roxy and Lockie. With their 2 children, they were an aspiring couple looking to build their dream home. Having paid $260,000 to the builder, were left with a garage and 1 wall. The builder ultimately collapsed and they were left to pick up the pieces. And this story isn't unique, with us seeing builder after builder going broke. So then why is this happening? Why is it that builders are going broke? And it begins with oil. Because as the oil price increases, it flows on, including the shipping costs. This then transfers into the cost of building your home, such as your timber or your lumber or your steel and other associated things that you'll need for your home. And if this wasn't hard enough, we also have a trade shortage. That is a shortage of people that can work, because the current job vacancy levels are the highest we've seen in 13 years. This has a compound effect. Industry experts saying that the average cost of a contract for a builder has gone up between 15 and 20% over the past 6 months, and as much as 50% in some areas. And these aren't even all the factors that are in play which are having an effect on builders and their profit margins. And typically how a build contract works is that you'll agree to a fixed price building contract with your builder. This lets you know exactly what you're paying and what you're getting in return. And this is fantastic for you, the consumer, but for the builder, it is a real problem, because when costs go up, they take that on board and ultimately means that they may no longer be profitable. And as we can see, many builders are collapsing as a result of not being able to pass on those costs. And personally, what I've seen is that some builders are even offering tens of thousands of dollars to exit the contract because it's actually cheaper than fulfilling the contract they agreed to. In other cases, they're looking to renegotiate, negating the contract and looking to increase costs as a result of not being able to fulfill the contract. So you're all probably thinking right now, what is it I can do and how can I avoid the mistake of building? Well, there are a few practical tips. Let's take a look at them.
More than ever, you need to investigate the stability of your builder. Now, it can be pretty frightening. ProBuild was one of Australia's largest builders, so you might be thinking, how can I protect myself if someone that huge has gone under? Most of the issues for these builders have come about because they've agreed to fixed price building contracts that were set in stone 2 years ago, when the prices of lumber and steel, like Josh mentioned, were much lower. So you need to firstly ask your builder how many projects they've got currently in train and when they started. If they began more than 2 years ago, you might start to think they could have cash flow issues, or they could have problems trying to fulfill those jobs because they agreed at such a low price at that time and the cost of construction have gone up and they're having to wear those costs. Secondly, you want to find out where they've been operating from. Have any of their sites been flood affected? Is their insurance going to cover this, or are they going to have to cover it from their existing cash flow? That can be important, because if they're going to have to pour more resources in other builds, it could take their time away from your future home. And thirdly, check out their reviews. Have a look online, see if there's any disgruntled customers that have used your builder in the last few years and had any issues with them. Have they done a shonky build 2 years ago that's kind of fallen apart, or are all the customers satisfied that everything was run on time and finished when promised? The biggest challenge with building is timeframes. I was speaking with Ben this week, who'd found the perfect block of land that wasn't going to be ready for registration until later in the year. The block of land was in regional Queensland and it only cost $300,000. So he thought, this is a bargain. I'm going to have to spend $700,000 for a new home. So I said, Ben, before you get too much into it, how about you chat to some local builders, put out some inquiries and get a quote in writing that says how much it's going to cost to build. 2 weeks later, Ben gave me a call. He inquired with 5 local builders and didn't get a single call back from one of them. And this is the risk with building. You can go out there with the best intentions. The numbers might look great on paper. You might not actually have anyone to build on your home. Or equally, the other risk in Ben's case was the land wasn't going to be ready to register for another 6 months. So if prices keep going the way they are, you might think you're going to spend $250,000 to $300,000 now to build a home, but in a few months' time, that could escalate and you could be out of pocket and on the hook because you own the land and there's not much you can do other than steam forward. And if you think about it, you're only going to buy the land in 6 to 9 months' time. It could take another 12 months to build. You could be paying for rent while you're paying a mortgage for the next 2 years. If you're like a lot of unfortunate home buyers who have tried to build in the last 12 months with a lack of contractors and not able to get materials, your build could be delayed even further. So there's lots of risks you need to consider there, and not ever has it been such a questionable time to build a home. The other consideration is the impact that floods and all the natural disasters are going to have in the next 6 to 12 months as things are getting rebuilt. Insurance companies who have got much more muscle than your local builder are going to get preferential treatment for getting materials, contractors, and resources. So you got to think, if it's just little old Jaden building a house in the northern suburbs of Brisbane, what chance do I have against a global insurance giant that are trying to get their houses repaired and constructed? That's going to put more pressure on contractors, more pressure on prices, and ultimately flow on to more expensive build prices. The other big risk that I think hasn't really been identified in the market at the moment is phoenixing. We covered another video that talked about the construction of mascot towers in Sydney. This happened with a bunch of apartment complexes around Sydney where the builders went in, built it really well initially, and after 6 or 12 months, cracks literally started appearing in the foundations of some of these properties. Now think about it. If you're losing money and you can't exit the contractor's builder, you're obviously going to cut corners and try and find shortcuts to get built, get out, and get your money out of this project. And this is what happened in Sydney in a lot of these projects, and what I fear could happen with a lot of building and builders moving forward.
So if you are thinking of building, it's never been so important to pump your brakes, slow down, and do all your due diligence. Here at Hunter Galloway, we get home loans approved. If you live in Australia and looking for a great mortgage broker, we can help. Our service is free and we service the whole of Australia. So reach out to us and call us on 1300 088 065 or visit us online at huntergalloway.com.au. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.